Hello, hello. This is
Hello,
October
hello.
1st. I'm Dan. I'm maintainer of Nativewind.
And
Mark,
I'm
we're going
Mark.
to get this one day. We're going to get the
I
transition
know.
really well one day. Today is not that
Sorry,
day.
I was actually like reading through your notes and just got completely
It's
distracted.
it's all right.
Yeah,
It's cool. We're good.
and I'm Mark, the creator of Nativewind, and we're here to
Yes.
talk about Nativewind, React Native, CSS, all sorts of different things this week.
And always about the Expo SDKs. Yeah, so it's been about a week since the preview release now. And it is always interesting to observe. We based or tied, I should say, the Nativewind version 5 preview to the SDK 54 release. And I had actually completely forgotten that SDK 54 was the one that introduced the new architecture as the default.
Yes, yes.
And I am really hopeful that this never happens again because this has been an absolute annoyance to deal with. Because I think for a lot of folks, they're stuck making the decision for new projects of how do they want to
Mm.
begin, right? And normally with an SDK that's like just been released, it's not so important that you're on the latest stuff. But I do understand the point now where it's like, yeah, you should probably be starting a project with the new architecture. Um, but that sort of changes up how some of the tools that we're using, um, like RNnew and Nativewind UI and stuff, it it changes up some different deadlines and things. That has caused a bit of a stir for me because I currently RNnew latest reflects SDK 53 um, and Nativewind version 4. And then the Canary version of RNnew will give you version 5 with SDK 54. And there's a decent chunk of folks who want version 4 of Nativewind with SDK 54. So then you have the extra added folks who are trying to just do Expo Router out of the box with it, which again wouldn't be an issue if we just kind of bumped RNnew to use 54. That being said, people who are using 54 are running into issues, as is the norm, I think, with this kind of
Mm.
change. And so the temporary solution that we have so far that I'll be posting about either today or tomorrow is basically here's some template repos while I work to get RNnew working with all this stuff. That are pre-configured with version 4 of Nativewind and SDK 54. But yeah, this is kind of really annoying if I'm being entirely honest. It's very frustrating to have to like kind of put up with all of this.
Yeah, it's a big upgrade, and part of the reason why we did the major version at this time was to deal with this upgrade once, um, bump up the SDK, bump up to new architecture, bump up to reanimated. So a lot of things changed all at once. Part of the reason why we only support the new architecture in this version is because a lot of the features that we added are new architecture only. So React Native has stopped adding new styling features to the old architecture. All the new styles that have been added are new architecture only, um, just because that's the direction that they're going in. And so it seemed like a good reason to clean break and just support that, so we can have all these new styles. So that's things like the background images, uh, the new object fit stuff like that. All of that is new architecture only.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, we can look. I still want to go back to 4 and look at doing a compatibility version that updates and fixes some of the issues with 5. Sorry, with SDK 54, so that people can more cleanly upgrade. It seems like some people have done it. Some people are still having some issues, so I have to go back and revisit that. Um, There's just a thing of time at the moment. But yeah, there's a lot of things in your comment there that I kind of want to break down. But yeah, essentially that's why we support the first part where it was like why we new architecture only at the moment. And that's because of the features in React Native. Like React Native is now just pushing out things in the new architecture only. There's no backwards compatibility there. They're full steam ahead. So we're kind of on the same page there.
Yeah.
For the Expo router people, I'm currently looking into that. That seems to be just a package dependency issue. For the majority of people, it seems like they're having the issues with PMPM. And that's a lot of people we're seeing with PMPM are having issues, and we're still trying to work out the cause of that one. But it looks like it's some sort of like peer dependency conflict. So we might just have to update our versions to make PMPM happy, or maybe even just include an extra step in the installation for PMPM users to make sure things line up correctly there. It
Yeah.
looks like it's pulling in an extra version of, I think, Lightning CSS or the Metro runtime. I'm still trying to isolate which one. And that's because Expo wants Lightning CSS and Tailwind wants Lightning CSS, and their versions are not aligned. So that's where conflict can occur. And at the same time, Expo expects a version of Metro config, and we have a peer dependency on Metro config. And PNPM is installing two versions of the Metro config, which gives you two versions of the Metro runtime as well. So trying to work out what the good fix there is. But that one should just be a dependency issue. Shouldn't be too much of a blocker once we resolve that. And then I'm trying to remember all the points you had there.
Oh, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's that the good thing is that version 5 seems to be solving a lot of headaches that people are having or have had with stuff pertaining to version 4, whether that's like configuration or some performance aspect or like interacting with the reanimated version 4. So that's good. But until the docs say for version 5 are at a more like, solid spot, I think some people are going to be apprehensive to jump right in to that. Others, they don't care, right? So they just, I mean, we've seen like a bunch of folks just jump in and just start making it work. And a huge thank you to everybody in the Discord community who's been leading with like solutions to a lot of this stuff. That's incredibly, incredibly helpful. So please continue to do that. It helps me get the configure the template configurations for all this stuff, like to have a check basically against like, okay, this is how it should be configured. So yeah, so people really like it, but for this folks who stick to version 4, it's just this awkward kind of in between thing. And I'm hoping that, on on the one hand, addressing the things that you're talking about, while also getting RN new to sort of work with the configurations, and then just, I guess, we'll earlier than I'd like to move to 54 as latest. And then if you want to use 53, then you can just tag a specific version of RN new. And that'll use 53. But yeah, so the harder part will probably be version 5, sorry, SDK 54 support for something like Nativewind UI, because the reality is that far from every library has updated to support SDK 54. And thankfully, with something like React Native iOS context menu, Fernando has gotten publish, permission from, I think his name is Dominic Stop. So huge thank you to him for leading that and getting the release out that supports SDK 54. But there's still other things that just don't. So yeah, like if you find yourself in these situations where you're like in a frustrating thing, like we want to help you. It's a very just odd time, and I think we just have to like collectively work through it over the next month or two. Um, these are pretty substantial changes, right? Both for Nativewind and for Expo and for Reanimated. Um, I actually don't know anything on the end of like Expo router and how significant changes there are, but yeah, this is not a common thing. Like things don't normally change to this extent, I would say.
No. Yeah, this
So,
is a very new sort of situation, but it is also kind of um, the beginning of the end of the old architecture. Like,
yes.
um, I know, like, I'd love to do backward support as much as possible, but the reality is that we are at a time now where the cutoff of the old architecture is there, and new versions of things going forward will not support the old architecture. It's been 3 years now of a transition period to the new architecture. Um, so, obviously, maintaining libraries in React Native, it's a community topic of, how do we update the old libraries? But yeah, I would like to go back and support as much as I can, but at the same time, we've got to still forge ahead as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is essentially with Expo dropping support for the old architecture. That's the signal to the community that we all need to move forward. We need to kind of get off the old architecture, and I understand that might be frustrating, um, but also like it sucks to say that maybe you just don't update, you know, the library. I know that's a really bad excuse, um, but or
That's
like
like the
we've got to try and.
Microsoft answer, you know. For
I
those who
know
don't want to
it's
upgrade,
tough.
we have the Xbox 360 or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
No,
It's a really tough topic because you know there has been a migration period of 3 years, but still like things lagged behind. And how do you support those people who are stuck with the things that are lagged behind? That's really difficult. Um,
I think
I think we need to find a balance of like what we do for ourselves and how much the community needs to kind of put in that effort to get over this line as well.
Yeah, so I think that it can be sort of two-pronged right off the top of my head of one, the discussions are open on the GitHub repo, whether you want to do that in the React Native CSS one or in the Nativewind GitHub repo itself. And I'm not going to shut down any discussions there pertaining to here's how you run stuff with, older SDKs or versions, at least not for a while, right? So if you want to take the initiative there and show people how you got it to work and stuff, please go ahead. And if we can support, we will. But I think if you opt to upgrade and move forward, surface those issues because those are issues we do want to kind of address, whether we point you to Expo to handle that or we handle it. But if it gets really gnarly and you're like concerned, like you can just hit one of like definitely hit me up. Maybe there's like something to work out, like a consulting type of thing, and that's certainly a way to move forward. But like Mark said, I just it doesn't seem like supporting stuff that's from the old architecture is going to serve the community very well. So we kind of just have to like brute force move forward. For my part, though, with RN new moving forward, I don't foresee these types of large changes. So RN new, when SDK 55 drops, will not upgrade to 55 for a minute. It will remain on 54, and 55 will be a canary release. So this isn't going to be like a change to the status quo in that regard. It's just this is an edge case, I would say, that is unfortunate, but has to happen.
Yeah, we've got to make the cut at some time, and it's always going to be annoying for someone
Yeah.
when it happens. Um, yeah,
So then that being said, Some of the issues, like you said, that folks are running into pertain to package managers, PNPM,
Hmm.
and those are like technical issues to work out, but more so like what's the best way to work them out. In the meantime, using Bun usually works. I'm definitely testing mostly with Bun on my end. With respect to configuration with Expo Router, that is something that's like a template that I hope to get out onto RN new this week, maybe next week, like more realistically next week, because I'll be out of town over the weekend. So, but that's pretty high on my priority list. I guess now the higher priority is getting everything switched over to SDK54, followed by then reintroducing the templates with Expo Router. Insofar as the documentation, though, a lot of the, like I said, reason that people are apprehensive to jump into version 5 is that
Just before we
yeah,
change topics, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, about the PMPM. So we're still kind of investigating it. There's a lot of things there that it could be a dependency issue, but I also want to work with the Expo team. I haven't reached out to Phil yet, but I probably will very soon, and see if there's maybe something on the Expo side that could be causing this. So one of the things that happened in SDK 54 was a new resolver for Metro is being used by the Expo SDK, which has enhanced support for PMPM. So there could actually be maybe like an upstream bug that we're encountering or something like that. Like, I know it's a little bit frustrating that PMPM isn't working, but we still just need a bit of time to investigate it. It's not just as simple as just to get a couple of version numbers going. We need to actually work out where the source of the problem is and why this seems to be just like a PMPM issue. So we'll investigate it. I'll try and create an issue for people to track and follow, and give you some updates from there. But hopefully, we should have that done within this week or so.
Okay, great. So then you're good to move into the doc stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about docs. Docs for V5 are very lacking right now.
Yes.
Um,
So I see this as kind of like a, if you look at that analogy of the cup with the holes in it and the water kind of draining out of it, it's like you want to clean up the water that's spilled, certainly, but you also want to plug up the holes. So, from the perspective of plugging up the holes, I really like what Expo has done with their documentation. Shout out to presumably Aman for this. Is the edit buttons at the top and the LLM support thing. So I'm going to be looking into over the next week and a half to add that to our stuff so that we can empower the community to know where to edit that stuff or add these things, um, while we're adding them ourselves, basically. Um, that being said, I'm also curious if we want to, particularly moving forward, have separate docs for React Native CSS and separate docs for
yes,
Nativewind.
that
Okay.
will happen in the future. I think we'll just stick with the Nativewind docs at the moment because most people are using React Native CSS through Nativewind.
Hmm.
I know that's changing with some other different libraries for using React Native CSS directly. So we'll get the docs up for them eventually. But I think we'll just focus on Nativewind. Otherwise, we're kind of like splitting our effort because there is a big overlap between the two projects.
Yeah.
The feedback I've had for docs and what I want to be working on today is we need just a cleaner migration from V4 to V5 docs of change this file, change this file, change this file.
Hmm.
So I'm going to update the migrate from V4 to have a big section at the top. It just says you need to do this because that's not clean enough at the moment. We kind of lack that information. And so people are getting errors like the JSX transform cannot be found because we no longer use the JSX transform. Like you need to remove those lines,
Hmm.
but we're not clear in the upgrade guide about that. So that seems to be the biggest issue with migrating. Um, the other issue is we lack docs now on dark mode in theming in V5, as that has conceptually changed. As we need to explain how the light mode, dark mode classes kind of work now, and that we don't have magical helpers that do it as much anymore. So in V5, light mode and dark mode follow more closely what you should be doing on the web, where you should be creating either using the theming variables or using media queries to select between light and dark mode, or simply just having a class on a view. So putting a class on the root level view of dark enables dark mode across the application as a manual process. So that's if you don't want to use the device color, like if you want to control it yourself, you could just put the class dark on something and everything inside that becomes dark mode. And you can use that for different theming as well. So if you wanted to theme like primary, secondary, you now do that through CSS variables. So we kind of need a better guide that describes that. So that's the next doc that I'll be working on to just explain those two concepts and how they slightly changed between V4 and V5.
If you want to put together an initial, you don't necessarily have to do the whole doc, but if you want to throw together just like a collection of thoughts, and then I can basically go through and create a project with it, and that way I can kind of clean it up into like a cohesive, model of like here's how you would implement it sort of from the ground up. Unless you want to just jump right into the doc, and then I can take a look and just try.
We've already got some docs for this about themes, and how to add themes. I think that doc just needs to be more fleshed out and more obvious about what it's kind of talking about.
Okay. Yeah, so that's one. Then obviously there's the standard concerns of like, how do you work with third-party components? How do you build a package based off of React Native CSS? And I think theming is the only other one. Those are like the big core concepts to cover. And I actually think if we cover that like 4 to 5 core concepts, most of the concerns go away. It just ends up being the remaining body of work just is like, how has the API changed, right? Like which shadows are now supported kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much that. Yeah, the third-party components is a good one. We do have some docs in there, but we need to flesh them out. And how to publish a library as well is the new one that we're going to have to talk about, as that process has been streamlined, I guess is the best way to put it now. It's now probably easier to publish a third-party library, so we need to have some docs that just kind of talk about that, as it's going to include some foreign concepts like exporting a CSS file and things like that is now possible. So we'll have to go into that in more detail.
The other one is the SVG styling support.
Sorry. SVG styling support is coming. It's actually not in the current preview. The support for React Native SVG is coming very soon.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we'll post docs once that's ready, or perhaps maybe even put it up and say like coming soon type of thing.
Yeah, you can put docs for it. Yeah, I'll create some places. I'll chat to you on Discord about that when I get some docs up for it.
Yeah.
We will have another preview version out very soon, probably today. That's going to address a couple of bugs and fixes that the community identified. These are mostly around scroll view, flat list, and virtualized list. At the moment, they're simply just not working in the preview, either on native or on web. You get two different sets of errors. That's been addressed and we fixed. Some of the TypeScript errors that are occurring, there's either some definitions not found, or some people are getting infinite definitions, like their editors locking up due to a recursive loop. That issue's been resolved as well. So they're the big blockers that are going to be put out in the current patch. that should allow a lot of people to keep testing as well.
Great. Okay. Um, and then I just wanted to cover some logistics stuff if you're ready to move on beyond the sort of plan
Yeah,
for the docs.
that's good.
Um, yeah, so obviously with the work on version 5, the discussions, issues, and PRs have been a bit neglected. It's not too bad,
Mhm.
but like definitely want to get those sub like I would say 10 issues. Same with the PRs. And I have gone through and cleared up the discussions. The ones that I think I had mentioned this to you in Discord, but basically the ones that are open could use, a glance over, and at that point you can kind of do what you want with them. Um, but my goal with the issues is to sort of go through like 5 to 10 per day over the next like week or two and get that down into, you know, sub 10 issues, more specifically like, genuine things that would go towards a new release.
Yeah.
And then perhaps consider moving some of them to React Native CSS. But that's going to be
Yeah,
a
so
manual process for a bit.
yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a process. I am transferring some things across. I think we're gonna get an issue template um,
Mhm.
set up as well to help kind of direct people across. But yeah, we'll start getting through these issues. I am kind of transferring things as well, just manually as I go through them. Um, but
Okay.
yeah, it's just gonna be a little bit of a process to go through them.
Yeah. For me, the PRs are the lowest priority. I don't know if you want to treat those as a higher priority, but for me, it's like issues, documentation, and templates, right? As like those two are on the same tier.
Yeah,
And then the last thing for me is the PRs. I would think probably you look through the PRs as perhaps a higher priority, at least to get them under like 10. Maybe some of them don't even matter. I don't think any of them should be documentation at this point, but I can make sure they aren't because that should belong in like the website uh, repo.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of my current priority and plan for the next like week or two. At which point I think we'll be, in a sort of all caught up state.
yep, makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll go through all these. Just lots of little ones here.
which is good because I mean they won't take very much time to look
Yeah,
at. I wouldn't try to do all of them in a day. I mean, like I don't know,
no, no,
a
no.
a
I don't have
couple
time.
or
It's a
something,
little more there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I think I don't want to give folks the perception that like we're not looking at this stuff. It's just the past several weeks has been crazy. So, um, yeah. So I want to get that, like I said, back under 10 for each, and I think we'll be good. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I think that's mostly it. Unless you wanted to cover something, I can just do a quick recap of what we talked about.
Let me just go through notes. If there's anything else there? No, I think that's good. Yeah, if you just want to recap.
Sure. So, with the templates, including RN new and stuff, we'll be bumping that to 54 SDK 54 as the baseline. Serves as that's an edge case. Like moving forward, we generally won't do that, but this is a special case where we will. That means that the difference between RN new latest and the Canary version will just be whether you're running version 4 of Nativewind or version 5. Um, Expo router template support will likely be available either later this week or next week for that, which should pair well with some of the fixes that Mark mentioned he'll be releasing in the next like preview version, which you said should be out later today.
So preview version probably won't have the router fixes in it. This will just be the
Oh,
fixes for the lists and
okay,
the TypeScript issues. Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, so then regardless, I mean next week
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and yeah, so the docs are gonna our goal for the version 5 docs is to have those 5 core concept those topics laid out, and I don't know if we'll get all of those done by next week, but that's our priority, as well as making it so that it's easy for the community to edit the docs, or add new pages for anything missing. And if that doesn't happen, then like again, we'll just sort of gradually get to it. Um, Lastly, as far as logistics are concerned, React Native CSS will eventually get its own docs. When that is not clear at the moment, but we've cleared up the discussions, the issues. We're targeting getting under 10 issues, and I'll be progressively sort of working through them over the next week or two, moving some of them over to React Native CSS repo. And lastly, I think Mark is going to predominantly be going through any open PRs at the moment, also progressively. So those are all the updates with version 5, clocked in at around 30 minutes for this state of Nativewind, which is pretty good for us. Yeah, and unless anyone has any other questions, we will call it there. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you then.
Bye-bye.